Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of BM8 Unfiltered. My name is Bucci and I am your host. This particular platform was created so that you can have an interaction with Honorable Brian Mundubile, who is the Tonse Alliance president and as well as candidate for the 2026 elections for Zambia. So you can have an interaction with him, personal, and he will answer all those unfiltered questions that are pertinent to you, and he'll be able to put those matters to rest. With that said, allow me to welcome the man of the moment, Honorable Brian Mundubile. How are you, sir?
Abuchizia mulitiani.
Tiri bwino.
Mulishani mabuchizia.
No, I'm okay. As former chairperson of, we're just going to go straight into it. As former chairperson of ERB, following the admission by the secretary to the treasury that shutting down Indeni was a mistake. How do you think we can get it right as far as petroleum subsector is concerned, especially looking at what is happening in the world today? Right now, Donald Trump and the U.S. have spoken about a ceasefire between them and Iran, and now it looks like things will stabilize. But in the long run, what do you think is the right way to go?
No, thank you, Buchi. I think it's very good. I would like to commend the Secretary of Treasury, my dear friend Nkulukusa, for admitting that they were indeed wrong to convert Indeni into an oil marketing company. Which, when you go back, you will realize that we made several presentations on the floor of the House objecting to that conversion. Now, it was very clear that our friends at the time did not appreciate the challenges that the energy sector was facing. You see, energy insecurity is not good for a country. So the design for Indeni and the pipeline were such that we're able to buy and transport commingled crude oil through the pipeline to Indeni, which was later separated into various forms of petroleum products. Now, what that did, because of the bulk purchase, we were energy secure for a minimum period of 90 days. And other measures were put in place to construct storage facilities across the provinces that increased the number of days that would remain energy secure. So the solution to the challenge that we're facing now, it's not the first time that the region has been threatened with war, and it's actually the reason why those facilities existed. So going forward, there are major reforms that are required in the energy sector in order for us to be energy secure. One of the reforms, as Tonse, will ensure that we restore Indeni to a refinery. We'll proceed to make investments, to invest in a hydrocracker, which is a major component that is missing on that refinery, so that it's able to deal and process different forms of crude. So even as we begin to look out for other alternative suppliers within Africa, we'll first of all restore and improve Indeni. We'll begin to use the almost 2,000-kilometer pipeline according to original design to transport crude into Indeni and refine it. We believe with that intervention, we'll certainly be energy secure. You remember, Bucci, that there are several advantages of doing that. One is that when you import crude, you actually have buffer stock. Okay? So meaning that even the review of prices can be done on a quarterly basis, because that's how long you'll be able to hold the stock. The ERB uses a model they call the cost plus model. Basically, you accumulate the costs and come down to calculate how much you spent on a particular consignment. You put your margins and that's how you calculate that particular cost. So in this case, the reason why the reviews are on a monthly basis, which is because we're getting finished products You know, they're coming in every other day. So that particular model is very sensitive to changes in the oil prices or indeed the exchange rates. Now, if you are using Indeni and you're processing crude, the consumers of these petroleum products will at least be safe. They'll be able to plan for a minimum period of 4 months, 5 months, for instance. So that is one advantage that we get from restoring Indeni, improving Indeni by purchasing or acquiring a hydro cracker. So the byproducts, Buchi, one of the byproducts from the processing of crude, one of the byproducts is actually HFO, heavy fuel oils. Okay, so we were able to one process bitumen, from that as one of the byproducts, and also we're using HFO to generate up to 105 megawatts of power, which was later sold to ZESCO. So we have a lot of advantages in making sure that Indeni is restored to its original design. We take them back. We move them out from an oil marketing company to a refinery.
So in saying that you're going to take Indeni back to its original function, how long is this going to take you when you're in office? How do you think? What's the difficulty in achieving this for you?
There's no difficult, Butch. It's just a political will. You'll be interested to know that the management at Indeni had actually done a great job. They had taken steps to actually modernize the refinery. They had already started investing. Some of the assets that they acquired to modernize the refinery are still there. And so what was there was that we up to now question what the original idea was for the APND government to want to convert the use of Indeni into an oil marketing company. So we think that it's good that they now regret their decisions, and we hope that the infrastructure at Indeni will not be cannibalized to make it difficult for the next government to improve the infrastructure and be able to utilize the refinery according to its original design. You know that the petroleum products have been very expensive lately, at the backdrop of the earlier promises that the President made regarding middlemen. The promise that was made was that President Hakainde Hichilema would remove the middlemen from this supply chain to lower the cost of fuel. But what we've seen, of course, is a totally different picture altogether. There were some amendments that were made, some reforms that were made within the energy sector between 2018 and 2020. These included amendments to the Electricity Act and indeed amendments to the ERB Act. So one of the benefits for the petroleum subsector was what you call the free access policy. This is what they're actually using to allow other people to use Indeni, where it's taken to be a common carrier. It's a common facility. Whoever is importing fuel is able to use it. Ordinarily, that's a very good principle, because then it introduces competition and levels the playing field. What we saw happen with Indeni and the pipeline was that it was only availed to one oil marketing company. And this oil marketing company was doubling the prices. We only discovered when there was pressure on Indeni, and they decided to open it up to other competitors. So when these oil marketing companies were competing and tendering, we found that the prices, which were originally around $130 per metric ton, dropped to about 60 or 65. By the same people were supplying at 120. When competition was opened, the prices dropped by over 50%. Yeah, so there was a lot of exploitation. The reason I bring out this is just to demonstrate that sometimes leaders are not sincere. We must be very careful with the promises the leaders make, the undertakings that they make. You as a leader, you don't promise to take out middlemen, and when in the actual sense you introduce middlemen who are not removing 3/4 as earlier alleged, but they're actually increasing the prices by $60 per ton.
So let's talk about the removal of excise duty and VAT on fuel in order to stabilize it, because what made public discourse the last 2 weeks was that well, the fuel was going to go up by a huge number, because we've seen that other players in the region or other countries in the region increase their prices of fuel, and there was an expectation that Zambia was going to increase the fuel. So the increase was there, but it wasn't as expected. What is your reaction to that?
Well, first of all, Buchi, as Tonse, we always believe that government is always there for the people. And government exists for the people. Government is there to help the people. So there should be no gap between the people and government. There should be no gap between what people are experiencing and what government is able to do. I hope you get me, Buchi. So we should not be very mechanical about it. If there is a problem, people are facing problems, government must solve those problems. That's what we believe in as Tonse. So if you look at what government did, that is what government is expected to do. For instance, the fuel prices should have naturally gone up. Why? Because the fuel prices are determined by two important factors: the international oil prices and the exchange rates. So if you look at the international oil prices, on account of the instability, in the oil producing region, we expect them to go up, and there should have been an upward adjustment on the local prices also. So government has taken steps, have taken measures to remove excise duty and VAT. This is an indirect subsidy, Buchi. If you remember, in 2020, cabinet of the government then, the Patriotic Front, did the same to try and mitigate the impacts of COVID-19. And of course, our friends then, they had not yet experienced what governing is all about. They were up in arms to condemn government for that particular subsidy. But a government under President Lungu remained resolute to say, we are going to take this impact on behalf of the Zambian people. So we are happy that now that they're experiencing the lived realities of what it takes to govern, and for once we have seen them move, to try and help the people. It's a very good move indeed.
Let's move and talk about the ECZ, which has also occupied public discourse. The ECZ has released its pre-nomination, but there is also growing speculation that the state is planning to block your nomination for the position of Republican president. What is your comment on all of this, and why do you think this could be happening?
When all is said and done, Buchi, the will of the people will prevail. The people of Zambia will choose who their next leader will be. The people of Zambia will choose who their next president will be. So there's been a lot of machination, a lot of movements. You've seen the drama at the airport, the drama at the SEC, a lot of movements have been followed left, right, and center. There had been a number of strange vehicles trailing us right through the week and so on. I now hear there had been a report last week by some gentleman, I don't know whether it's some Mr. Musonda, who launched a complaint at Woodlands Police saying that, I'd say something about the president, like President Mwaile Telela, and therefore, I should be called for questioning. So when you look at all these petty things going on, you only arrive at one conclusion only, that they would like to disturb our journey to the August 13th elections. When you see the movements and the happenings at the Registrar of Societies, the happenings at the Electoral Commission of Zambia, you only come to one conclusion, and one logical conclusion will be that the UPND government has apprehended fear. They have realized that on account of non-performance, on account of the many bad policies, whether it's in agriculture, whether it's in the Ministry of Health, whether it's in the mining sector, whether it's in the labor sector and in the economy generally. The UPND realizes that our youths, men and women in the agricultural sector, will not be encouraged to give them a vote when they've been getting fertilizers in the meadows. If you look at the health sector today, the health sector has collapsed completely. You can't talk about NEMA when you hear what's happening at ZAMSA. And the impact of this collapse is that most of our poor men and women, our youths, baleya kufipatala ukwabula emiti, baleinuka kofe na prescription. Bantu batu wakapita kuma hospitals because health sector is collapse. Malaini ya NEMA watenga chabe ni panado ya bapasa chabe. And yet bantu walipila ndalama every month towards NEMA. So bantu waona kuti kwenda kuchipatala kwenda kutenga chabe prescription. Bangana mine. Mining sector, my youths wavutika ngako. Bavutika my youths in that veka my youths wapeza gold, which I discover gold. Instead of government yende iwatandize, iwapase ko equipment, iwapase ko mana licenses, iwapase ko na maloni ya kutuwa sevenze, government ipita kuja na masoja, ipita kuja na wakapokola kwenda wapirikisa. So all these things put together with the high cost of living, the UPND has apprehended fear. They're getting feedback on the ground. Buchi, are you aware that UPND kunkana meeting manje, they have to pay people? Nikusto walipira, kutowa president wabuela, eva principal indalama niopasa ma students pakuti wakaboka stay attend. When you see that happening, then you know that you are dealing with a government that has lost its legitimacy. So what they've resorted to, they've gone to ECZ to try and move some amendments to the existing laws so that, one, they talk about removing the stamp from the ballot. They're also talking about criminalizing the presence of voters around polling stations once they've voted, and many other changes that they want to make. So my appeal to my dear brother, President Daka Inde Hichilema, is that we are in a constitutional democracy. My dear brother, what that entails is that in a constitutional democracy, there's contestation. There's going to be competition. And the other fundamental principle there is the protection of human rights. So the duty that you have as the man that is in the seat now is to ensure that there's an even playing field for the many political leaders coming from different political parties to come and compete fairly. You also have a duty to ensure that as we do this, you protect the rights of the citizens because you are the president. So once that is done, let the best man win.
Speaking of you ascending into office during this August election, one thing that still remains in the conversation is the Tonse Alliance Manifesto. And the public is anxiously waiting to see what this manifesto is going to look like. I know a lot of work has gone into the development of the document. Maybe you could give us an update as far as the launch of the manifesto and really what has delayed the manifesto coming out.
I wouldn't say there's been any delay. I think we've been at it. The last time we met, I said in a couple of weeks, we are basically done. It should have gone for printing. If it didn't go yesterday, it should have gone for printing today. We're basically done. We're ready. We're ready for the launch of the manifesto. I have not met the team to just check what dates they've booked. It's a major event, Buchi. It's a major event. We're very excited about it. We went through as Council of Leaders, and the Council of Leaders were able to bring in their input. Everybody feels a part of this, and we're very excited to do what we are doing, for the Zambian people.
Well, if you may, please give us the main pillars of your of this manifesto. What will this manifesto stand on? What's the backbone of this manifesto as we approach August?
Well, in principle, is we'll look at unity in diversity. Very, very important. And remember, Tonse has 30 organizations and yet existing as one. And that's exactly how I would want to lead this country. Unity in diversity. Of course, there are many other areas that we are looking at. One of the key reforms will come in the civil service. We are very worried with how the civil service, what the civil service has become, or what has become of the civil service. We, as Tonse, are looking at transforming the civil service. We look at merit-based appointments in the civil service, depoliticizing the civil service, and advancing professionalism. But you must understand this. Governments come and go, okay? The state remains. So there should be an aspect of continuity. We need to create a state or a civil service that is neutral, a civil service that is professional, a civil service that is depoliticized. That way, there will be continuity. Some of the challenges that we have are because when there's change of government, governments are in a hurry to purge the civil service and bring in their own people who may not be qualified at the time, who may not possess the skills that are required to run. One such example is how the energy sector has been run down. We're just talking about Indeni. Had there been continuity, had there not been the purging of civil servants, Indeni today would have been functioning even better than we left it under the Patriotic Front. But because there is this urge to want to purge the civil service and bring in cadres to run the civil service, as a country, our growth has remained stunted. So these are some of the key reforms. And in terms of development, we've looked at some of the challenges that have slowed down development across the country. We are going to introduce what we are calling regional development authorities. Okay, so these regional development authorities, Buchi, without going into so much detail, are going to look at the country as a whole and be able to cluster provinces with similar advantages. Okay, for instance, there are certain provinces that will have a comparative advantages in agriculture. They'll be lumped together as a region. Those with comparative advantages in mining will be lumped together, and so on and so forth. And then we will take development at a regional level. So that way, you realize that we'll be able to realize results quicker in these particular areas, as it were. Yeah.
Very interesting. Let's talk to still on the agenda of development and the manifesto that is coming through. Your broad agenda is centered around empowering local citizens, local Zambians, basically, under the mantra of Nakolo Pamakasa. What do you make of instruments such as CEEC and as well as CDF? Are these platforms really going the extra length in terms of empowering our people, as far as empowering our people is concerned?
I feel that CDF is playing its part. The CEC are playing their part. The impacts are dismal. Okay, for one reason, I've always said this: CDF, if looked at as a percentage to the national budget, is only 2.3%. Yeah, so it doesn't matter how well you use the 2.3%. The impact will be according to the 2.3%. So what is required now, if you look at the regional development authorities, for instance, they will receive direct government support away from CDF and away from CEC. Okay, to look at, for instance, backbone infrastructure. You will not talk about tourism for the Northern Security Northern Province if you don't talk about the road infrastructure and the airport infrastructure around those particular areas. And those will come through the regional development authorities. So once the major aspects of the economy in the particular area are developed and investments are there, even what CDF will be doing and what CEC will be doing will be impactful. Okay? They'll be complementing the bigger side of things. So what we haven't had, which in case you wanted to know, we haven't had major investments coming from central government at provincial level or district level. We left it up to constituency level through CDF. But like I said, it's 2.3% of the budget. So you will not be able to do any major road construction, any dams. You will not be able to do bridges out of CDF. Yeah. So there's very little. You are limited with what you can do. Desks, you're going to score. 1x3 classroom blocks, you're going to score. But now we are at a stage where, with free education, for instance, we are at a stage where we also need to invest in fully blown secondary schools with boarding facilities. You will not use CDF for that. So when you look at the regional development authorities, looking at the education sector, for instance, government to be able to spend and invest in schools of that magnitude. So when after some time with these secondary schools, a CDF was able to do 1x3 classroom blocks at primary level. That is still okay. It's still okay to be able to absorb numbers because of the increased enrollments due to free education.
So when you talk about the regional office that you intend to create, doesn't that still balloon the already small finances that we have for as far as employment is concerned? Because now there's the issue, the question most people are asking is, well, there's a lot of positions, a lot of people that are being employed, like you had alluded to, and now you're bringing a new authority. Won't that authority need funding, which again is going to strain the Zambian budget?
Yeah, first of all, Butch, you need to understand the regional development authorities a little more. One, in terms of employment, it will be a question of realignments. You are not talking about institutions like ZESCO, which are top heavy, where a political party in power just takes all the cadres to work for ZESCO. Some of them don't even report for work, but they draw a salary. That is what is happening. Actually, with most of the institutions today, I can name them. They take people without the requisite skills to go and sit in these boards, and allowances, as it were. In this particular case, under the regional development authorities, the idea will be to realign the human resource in those particular areas. Let's take, for instance, if Luapula and Northern Province were taken to be one regional development, we're falling under one regional development authority, most of the manpower, be it engineers, planners, and the rest, will be drawn from the existing human resource and just employ in areas where you have gaps. The advantage that is there, Buchi, is that these authorities will be goal-oriented. They'll be going there to achieve results. You'll be interested to know that when we amended the Budget and the Planning Act, there was we created what we called investment boards. So these investment boards will actually be feeding into these regional development authorities. The idea really is, if we're trying to develop the Northern Circuit around Kasaba Bay, so these RDAs working together with the Ministry of Finance and Planning should be able to plan infrastructure, and they plan to the end. Okay? You don't pick isolated infrastructure. Planning to the end means you looked at road infrastructure, you've looked at energy infrastructure, you've looked at security, you've looked at everything else that is required to be able to do development in that particular area. So to answer your question, Buchi, the employment will not be like employment that we've had in many of these institutions that we see today, where cadres are taking center stage. They don't possess the skills that are required to run these institutions, and in the end, these institutions are actually dysfunctional.
Well, you're still a member of parliament from Porokoso. Let's look at the move by the executive to bring some bills to parliament. Some of these include the benefits of former presidents and as well as vice presidents, which seek to provide for retirement benefits of former presidents and vice presidents. What do you make of bills like this one?
Well, first of all, before we look at the specific bills, we are looking at the timing. Parliament is divided into sessions. Okay, the session we are in is actually the report session. We're supposed to be looking at reports from various committees. Sector committees have been sitting to look at reports, and these reports are supposed to be brought to Parliament. The parliamentary session actually lapsed in February. The legislative session lapsed in February. So number one, it points to bad planning on the part of the executive. It means government is not doing its job. It's sleeping on duty. And secondly, we also know that government would like to bring in bills at the last minute so that they are approved or passed in a hurry. It's most unfortunate. Every bill should be sufficiently interrogated by the committees and citizens and the people that are likely to be affected by it, meaning that there's supposed to be enough time. If you look at the number of bills that they are bringing on the floor of the House, clearly there will be no time to scrutinize these bills because in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're supposed to be adjourning sine die. Okay? So it's a usual style for the UPND. There's nothing that they do the straight way. You know, everything to them is it should be done the Mingalato way. My reminder to my dear brothers in government in the UPND is that it can't be Mingalato everywhere. Mingalato even when it comes to legislation. You know, let's for once do something straight. You can't have Mingalato in whatever you do. So in this particular case, they're forcing so many bills at the same time. I think even the committees will be overwhelmed to be able to look at this particular bill. So in short, we are likely to come up with a substandard legislation because the bills will not have been properly interrogated. The bills will not have been presented in a hurry. There will not be sufficient time for the committees to look at these particular bills. That is not how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to give enough time.
Well, let's talk about the dealings of the Office of the Registrar of Societies, which has come under heavy scrutiny in the recent past. A number of political parties feel the Office of the Registrar of Societies is blocking their registration. What is your position in this matter as far as the dealings of the Office of the Registrar and what this particular feeling says about the environment in politics?
Well, there's a huge difference between registration and licensing. So when you look at what registrar of societies are doing, it's as if they are doing licensing. Things that are supposed to be straightforward. They have introduced many requirements not supported by law. I was just reading an article from my dear brother, John Sangwa, when he, wrote about the many things that Registrar of Society requires from applicants and yet not even supported by law. You can't run government institutions based on arbitrariness. You can't be arbitrary when you're running government institutions. We have always said that the UPND have found it very difficult to run government because they, one, were in a hurry to remove professional and skilled staff. They have also politicized the civil service. So they're finding it very difficult. You find that an average civil servant, instead of thinking like a professional, who is supposed just to discharge their function, they have a cadre mindset. But you walk in, they look at you, you're from the opposition. This person sitting as registrar of societies, first of all, they're thinking how they're going to disadvantage you from standing. Are you with me? Why? Because they are cadres. Okay? They feel that they know to say their government has not performed. They know the sentiment on the street that an average voter has already decided to remove the EPND. So as they sit there in the registrar's office, the first thing that they do is, how can we disqualify this new applicant? That's unfortunate. And that's why, like we said, as Tonse, one of the first assignments will be to depoliticize the civil service, to ensure that we undertake a merit-based recruitment process we will also do some retraining of these civil servants so that they are trained in areas of patriotism. They understand their roles.
How will you do that without still, having people feel like government has the power to hire and fire? So because of that, I have to be on the side of government for the next 5 years, because I could be fired tomorrow and my bread and butter could be gone tomorrow.
So those are some of the reforms that we're going to introduce under Tonse, especially in the judiciary. They must understand that the security of tenure is not owed to the presidency. Okay? That security of tenure will be guaranteed. Even in the civil service, we'll strengthen measures. We'll strengthen to ensure that an average civil servant feels secure. Their security of tenure should be guaranteed. They will not be removed on account of doing their job.
Well, we'll have to squeeze in a few other questions on the other side, but we take a short break. This is BM8 Unfiltered. My name is Buchi, and I'm here with Honorable Brian Mundubile. This is your platform. You ask all the questions. You have your concerns. Put them in the comment section right now, or you could actually write to us. There's a number on the screen, and you could write to us using that particular number, and we will have a conversation regarding your concern. We take a break. When we come back, he answers a lot of those unfiltered questions you've been asking. Welcome back to BM8 Unfiltered, and I am your host. I am joined here by Honorable Brian Mundubile, who is the Tonse Alliance President and candidate for the 2026 general elections come August for Zambia. Now, with that said, let's get straight into some of the questions that were left out, but also some of the questions that you've been putting in the comment section. There's a number on your screen. You can send us a WhatsApp, and those particular questions you have pertinent to you will be answered live right here. Remember, nothing is off limits, and this is unfiltered. Before we get to the questions, I wanted to understand what the Tonse Alliance position is on civil servants debt swap, because some civil servants still have huge debts that they're still dealing with. So how will you answer to this when you are in office?
Yes, the position of Tonse on debt swap is that immediately we're in office, we're going to implement the debt swap policy. Mbuchi, tetumukwati obuteeko nabukwatira ama citizens in Congole. Bakwatira ama citizens in Congole, baba civil servants na bamu Kongola kumbi ni kuba kaloba mashailo kuna bashala. So ishin Congole shali pela ama civil servants ubu afya ukalamba. Ama civil servants wambi pama pero pawe negative. Now, how do you expect to implement policies, be it in the energy sector, in the mining sector, in the agriculture sector, when your civil servants, your civil service, have got negatives on their paychecks, on their pay slips? It's important. Every employer should go out of their way to look at their employees. It's a responsibility of government. It doesn't matter how you want to explain it, how this debt occurred. In Congole poshava, government owing ama citizens owing abantu bambi. And as a result of that, they are in distress. So we're going to implement that debt swap. No question about it. It's something that we debated as Council of Leaders, and it's in our manifesto. But we're going to go beyond that, Buchi. We also know that even after we've swapped debt, because of what the civil servants have been through, or indeed those that are starting new homes, and the newly employed, they needed some relief through friendly loans. Now, you need to provide an environment where these civil servants should be able to borrow. We've got the public service microfinance or something here in Lusaka. Yes, some of those that have been able to access that particular institution have been assisted with equipment for agriculture and many other things. We would like to take it down to district level. A civil servant who desires, to acquire a loan should be able to use the services of this particular institution. I'm one among those that benefited from that particular institution, we would get vehicles as state officers from these institutions, and with very good interest on top of that. So we are going beyond debt swap. Okay? We have to provide an environment where civil servants can borrow cheaply and be able to pay back. Yeah, so these are some of the measures that we are going to look at. Of course, the details will come in the manifesto. There will be reforms in the pension schemes and many others. These are some of the things that we'll be able to discuss. But to answer your question, on debt swap, we'll definitely implement that.
Well, let's talk about the sanitation of the highest learning institution in the country. We know that UNZA or UNZA, depending on how you want to pronounce it, has been our pride and joy as a country. It is the highest learning institution, and it houses not only Zambian students but also foreign students. One of the oldest institutions. You could also refer to it as a tourist attraction because of the many people that have gone to that important school. The sanitation problem. What did you make of the problem first of all, and then the solution, and then also beyond just the solution in the now? Should you take office come August 2026? What's your long-term vision for UNZA?
Well, first of all, Buchi, for any serious government, two things should have happened. The Minister of Infrastructure should either have been fired by the President or should have resigned. The Minister of Education should have been fired by the President or should have resigned because of what transpired. Very, very unfortunate. We lost a life because of failure by these two ministers. So Minister Milupi and Minister Douglas Yakalima should have been fired for what transpired at the university. So the failure by these two ministers to ensure that our students are learning in a habitable environment is indeed very, very sad. For me and many other leaders at Tonse, there are two things that we realized. We realized that under the UPND government, it's a one-man show. If the president doesn't speak, nothing happens. Okay? You have a non-functioning government, a non-functioning cabinet, as it were. Because if this cabinet was functioning, are you telling me, Buchi, that Comrade Milupi could not request for a 23 million to work on that network, the sanitation network within the university? It took the president, to speak for that money to be released. The same things happened when Our Lady Helen was killed in Northwestern Province. The police could not move until the president spoke. So we have a challenge. Why then is Milupi there? Why is Douglas Yakalima there? The challenge is at the university. I was a student at the University of Zambia in 1992. The challenges of accommodation existed even then, because the design capacity there, I think they should have maybe less than 10,000 students could be accommodated. Between 5 and 10,000 students, I can't remember. There's over 30,000 students that are at that university. So the infrastructure, be it actual accommodation, the sewer systems, and many other systems cannot hold the increased numbers. This is the information the ministry should have. There are many times that we've seen university students engaging with the president at State House. The question, Buchi, is what then do they talk about? So maybe this is the turning point. As Tonse, when we engage students, when we engage youths in the manner that we have seen, we will engage them for the benefit of the youths themselves and other students. We will provide an environment to that engagement for them to be able to speak freely on the many challenges that they're facing in their environments, including the learning institutions. I've seen that President Hakainde Hichilema has engaged these students many a time. I've seen them chant slogans at State House and so on. Can you imagine, Butch, that with all that fanfare, the university was facing such problems in terms of sanitation? This should be very embarrassing to the state. It's also be embarrassing to my young leaders, the students, that they could be accorded an opportunity to interact with the president at that level and be unable to present the challenges the students are facing until a life was lost. What I would expect the students to do, as Tonse, we've given leadership positions to the youths, because we want the youths to come into Tonse, take up leadership roles to help challenges that the youths are facing, including students. So some of the information that we have, there are several structures within the university land that were donated to the university by, I don't know which ministry that is. Those structures need to be completed. So government need to focus on completing these particular structures. And if the students were representing their colleagues well, they should have taken a lot of time to lobby government to complete those particular structures. There should be more infrastructure built near Kalingalinga for student hostels. Yeah, so like I said earlier, we have to learn something from this. And of course, it's sad that umwana wesu Emmanuel Bwalia could die in that manner. It's still, our hearts bleed. They go out to the parents of Emmanuel Bwalia. Chali chabulanda sana, walishwa fwe bafyashi. Nga wasambirisha omwana afika na mu grade 12 baingira na mu college. Wambokula imono kuti nomba nakwata kalubula, nakwata ndubuluila, ili nande kula numba. Abana, ebakesa nsonga. I can only imagine abafyashi wakwa Emmanuel Bwalia that began to see umwana alachita graduate from the highest institution of learning in the country. What a pride. Only to be told kuti umwana nafwa. It's something that is very hard to take. We can only pray for Emmanuel Bwalia's parents okuti lesa mipele nkoshona amaka tachangwike yo okulofya omwana palikali akashita pali afikire mu masambiriro ele muli ulya musango wa bipisha nganshi kanshi mkwai pamunyinani lesa mipali apakalamba mipele amaka okuti mwingakonkanyapo okula mulumbanya nokutila umwine ewishi wechwa sendele Emmanuel at that particular stage.
Well, you're watching BM8 Unfiltered, and we would definitely get to the questions. Again, we take just a little break, and then when we do come back, we answer some of the pertinent questions that you've been asking right here on BM8 Unfiltered. All the comments, all the messages you've sent to our WhatsApp, we'll definitely get to them just behind this mini break, just to catch our breath. Well, let's get to the questions that have been coming through via our WhatsApp, Facebook, and all the other platforms. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody who's been sharing this particular posts or podcasts as it appears on your feed. Thank you so much for everyone who is ensuring that they leave us a comment in those for those particular questions. Let's get to our first one. Well, the first question is coming through, and it says, this is a message from Chingola on the Copper Belt via WhatsApp. It says he is a youth, and majority of his peers in Chingola are suffering as they have no access to the mine dumps, and there are no jobs in the area. And he wants to know what your plan will be for the small-scale miners on the Copper Belt and when you become president.
What's the name of the gentleman again?
This is Peter Mwansa.
Peter Mwansa chabulanda sana okuti mulamwebe ne mwale bombela muma dumps bali mipoka shirasho nsenchende kula mwale imba nga twaisanga Tonse ili tule isanga Tonse tukesa miwesesha na kuchirisha popita tatwakamibwese shefe kwati bantu nangubana bashikwete bafyashiyo tukamibwese shano kumona okuti kulya kwine kunchende twamisambirishana safe mining pula kwine kunchende ukupitila muri Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprises twamipanga mu cooperatives mwakwata equipment mwakwata safety gear neryo mulefukula omukuba nefyashala, you are also safe. Abanenu bonse bale bafuma kumufumbwe na bala bonse bapokele ama gold mine position yesunga batonse kumi wese shashilie migodi elio tatule wesha fika tukumi fitila yo kubwela panchende paba mapped twaputula nokumika ma cooperatives nokutila aba kulashta fida mule senda palya an aggregator will be located in the area. You'll be given loans by this aggregator for you to get basic equipment. You'll be given licenses. You'll also be taken into incubation for training on safe mining, environmental protection, financial management, among others, attached to the license. So that is how far, that's the minimum government can do for you. Vamwansa. Ubuteko ufile wami bombela. Aweke samkumisambilisha safe mining, environmental protection. So there's nothing. It's just a decision. Because those are already there. Zema will get in and they'll run them through these clinics. The Ministry of Mines will move in, and there will be an aggregator in that particular area. You see the principle of Tonse, tukalakwata aggregator in most of these areas, because remember, Tonse na BM8 revolves around the biggie, a big brother. So an aggregator, even in the mining sector, Buchi, is like a big brother. Okay, this is an institution with capacity, an organization with capacity to extend advances to these small-scale miners, to be able to acquire basic equipment, and ultimately is an off-taker. He is the one that is buying off. This principle, na mu agriculture na mumwine, tukala kwata ma off-taker. Mukasango kuti, kusoweto abantu waposa fe tomato. Okay? Tukakwata ma off-taker even in the agriculture sector. Pakuti iwe musepelanga walidi ma tomato. Not le long tengo li pa 200, mailo pa 50 kwacha. If it's a frustrating, musepeleshing. The prices should be predictable and remain constant, because the off-taker will be able to uplift the stock from these, including livestock like chickens. Okay? Instead, you abantu amobwachela ni makanta morning to evening. There must be an off-taker who takes over these particular stocks. It will be a deliberate government program to make sure that in all these areas there is a big brother, there is some parent that is, taking over these.
We have a few more to get through. Let's get to this one. This one was a text from someone who has asked that we keep her anonymous, and she says that she's part of the group of young Zambians sent by the PF administration to Russia to study nuclear engineering, and she says that she has been back home since 2022, and there is no work for her since the UPND discontinued the nuclear energy development program, and she's frustrated and now thinking of leaving Zambia for good, and she wants to know how the Tonse Alliance will protect Zambian skills of young people from leaving the country for greener pastures.
Yes, my dear young lady, the engineer. Butch, you've been interested to know that I know the number of young people that actually underwent that training in Russia. This was at the time that we were preparing for a transition in the energy sector, to be able to deal with minerals like uranium and many others. There was that center that was created with the assistance, I think, of the Russian government somewhere in Chongwe. Yes, so as Ton said, we are still committed to diversifying the energy sector. And our view is that skilled people like yourself should not consider leaving the country. Tonse will ensure that we look for you so that you can begin to work in this particular sector where we are diversifying our energy mix. We are looking at coming up with laboratories, research centers in these particular areas. There are many other uses that would have for you and your training, given what we were told. And, so clearly my guidance to you would be that you don't consider leaving the country. There are many of you that were trained in Russia in that particular regard. You have a government coming in that to look at diversifying the energy sector, to look at geothermal, among other sectors that will come in. So please exercise some patience. You definitely will be absorbed given the high skills that you acquired abroad. They will be beneficial for the development of this country.
Well, finally, our last question. This one is coming through from Chama, and he sells salaula at Soweto Market, and he says he's struggling. His business is struggling, and the cost of business is very high, and he sometimes even fails to pay the council levies for his stand. So he's asking, what is your plan for the traders come 2026 August election and you are elected? What is the Tonse Alliance's plight for people that are traders?
Yes, Chama. Mwema trader as Tonse not quite specific programs. One of them are the loans to assist with trade finance. Iyo ine palevo mwava, pa small scale mwava, you need to be boosted na capital so that you're able to trade at a slightly better level. So nganarosha wachama, there are a number of interventions mkashita benefit from Tonse. Number one is to improve your trading places. So limo business ile shupa umulandua accessibility. The people can't access, especially in the rainy season. So we will increase the number of trading places and markets so that traders like Chama can trade in a clean environment. That way, your clients are able to access you. That is one. Number two, Chama. Mutonse, you will benefit our key, some of the key tools that we have to fight poverty. Efo tukalu ilana fiensala ni employment creation. Not to quata specific policies in each sector to create employment. Not what to create employment, abantu wale quata disposable income. We expect the number of clients to increase. Number one, we expand the markets, increase the number of trading places. We make them habitable. Sanitation is proper. It means abantu wakulafika komunishi chama. That's number one. Number two, you'll be assisted with soft loans to boost your working capital. Number three, we grow the economy by creating employment so that people have disposable income and you'll have a number of people visiting you. Ngamwalesha abantu 5 in a day, an average mlekwa 20, 30 people coming to buy. Definitely your businesses are going to grow as it were.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. It's been BM8 Unfiltered. And I've been your host. My name is Buchi. And I've been here with Honorable Brian Mundubile. Remember, BM8 is created for you to interact with Honorable Brian Mundubile, who is the Tonse Alliance President and candidate for the 2026 general elections. We've been having a conversation regarding some of the pertinent issues that you've put in our comment section and as well as sent through WhatsApp. With that said, remember to make a date with us every Thursday right here at the same spot in the same space. Keep it locked.